So, around this time last year, I was still at a boarding school in Switzerland. Though I initially wondered how to fare on my own, far away from my home in Barcelona, I quickly and eagerly adapted to this new situation. I created a close group of friends, enjoyed living on a scenic campus near a quaint city, and enjoyed the rigor of my new school. I thrived in my newfound independence and embraced all the new things I was learning, both inside and outside of the classrooms. For me, living and studying abroad for a year was an incredible experience that had a tremendous impact on me. But then, feeling like no sooner had it begun, suddenly it was all over. Upon my return to my regular life, thoughts of Switzerland naturally began to fade and blur as my mind was forced to move on to newer, more present concerns. Fast forward a couple months, and it's winter break. I'm in my bedroom in Barcelona, and part of me suddenly wishes to teleport back to my time in Switzerland. I wonder, what if I could just retrieve some memories from that dusty file cabinet in my memory? So, I pull up some photos, and I sit in my room filtering through them, looking back on all the best parts, taking the bus downtown, going on boat trips, exploring Italy, meeting new, interesting people. Many of the old memories became fresh in my mind once again, and I was filled with an overwhelming sense of longing for that time in my life. It was at once the feeling of living in Switzerland, the happiness of remembering that time in my life, and also a twinge of sadness, knowing I can never truly return to that pivotal time and place. This jumble of feelings I experienced that day in my bedroom. That feeling has a name, and the name is nostalgia. Nostalgia comes from two Greek words, the first nostos meaning homecoming, and the second algos meaning pain. The word was coined by Swiss medical student Johannes Hofer, who created the word to describe the severe cases of homesickness he was witnessing among Swiss medical soldiers fighting on foreign military campaigns. For Hofer, nostalgia originally referred to a severe depressive mental state, not a warm, fuzzy feeling about the past. Now, in his 1688 medical dissertation on nostalgia, Hofer suggested that nostalgia was a disease of an afflicted imagination, manifesting in obsessive thoughts and images of one's homeland. These soldiers were so consumed by their longing to return home, feelings so strong, that Hofer worried that they could be fatal if their yearnings became too overwhelming. Hofer wasn't the only one to notice the intense grip of nostalgia on soldiers forced in military campaigns. In a 1733 incident, a Russian general concerned with the negative effects of nostalgia threatened to bury one of them alive as a warning to the rest of them to repress their feelings. So, for a long time, simply daydreaming about your home life could land you a medical diagnosis or being buried alive. Today, however, we won't find nostalgia on a diagnostic manual. Instead, we now see nostalgia in a slightly different light. When we speak of nostalgia today, we include the positive feelings of thinking about previous times and places. It's now understood to be a mix of the joys of returning to the past, but also the pain of knowing that this journey back is impossible. Nostalgia can find its way into our lives without warning. It could come from hearing an old song, tasting a rediscovered dish, or even catching the forgotten scent of a pack of crayons. And this is how nostalgia differs from memory. Memory is simply the ability to recall past events in your life. It's factual, concrete, this or that happened, and we remember some parts of it, leaving us with a hodgepodge of fragmented memories. Now, think about it. Most of us can probably remember what happened yesterday at 3 p.m., but most of us probably cannot remember what happened a year ago at 3 p.m., and very few of us can remember what happened on, say, April 14th, 2009. Unless you have the rare gift of hyperthermesia, or maybe it's a curse in which you can remember almost all of your events in your life to some detail, then your memory is a collection of separate recollections, among which, when remembering the present, you have to fill in the gaps with your own guesses and assumptions. And what's crazy is that even if we think we're remembering some event from the past, often we're experiencing a false memory of something that has never happened. Scientists say that everyone creates false memories to a lesser or greater extent. Human memories are simply imperfect. And just like we can create false memories, sometimes nostalgia we're feeling is also an illusion. People tend to romanticize memories from their past, forgetting the bad and idealizing the good. And when we experience nostalgia, we can escape into our most cherished memories, leaving behind the societal political divides, the ugliness of wars, feelings of loneliness in the present, and fears about the future. And with the modern world changing so rapidly, we find ourselves hurtling into the uncertainty of the future at an ever-accelerating rate. We're thrust into tomorrow, longing for the comfort and familiarity of a past we can never fully reclaim. And as we outgrow our protective shell of our childhood, life becomes more complex and responsibilities multiply. Many people simply long for their youths when most of your time was filled with play, when Santa Claus and Tooth Fairy were still real, when you hadn't yet learned about the ugliness that exists in the world. And for my generation, I suspect that many of you will look back at your childhood as the good old days before COVID-19. Now, when we're nostalgic about the days of our youth, the simpler times and the personal joys we've experienced, we forget the broader societal issues and limitations that surely existed in those periods. For example, according to polling in the United States, almost half of the adult population says that the 70s or the 80s were the best eras in music. Now, some of you will say that's true, but it seems more likely to do with the fact that so many current adults today spent their younger years growing up during those decades. I'm sure that many adults in the audience today love the fashion, the TV shows, and the music of your teenage years, claiming it to be the best. But imagine if life had never progressed into the 20th century. We would have never gotten all the amazing technology, the medical advances, or the music since then. And people often remember their personal past, which clouds their perception of reality. Nostalgia makes us long for our own youth, but not necessarily for the era itself. A quote often attributed to Winston Churchill states, "If you're not a liberal at 25, you have no heart. And if you're not a conservative after 35, you have no brain." Now, while this may seem like an oversimplified generalization of how political views evolve, some indeed grow more conservative over time in an effort to preserve the past or due to fear of change. But it's not just individuals who seek solace in nostalgia. Entire societies often find themselves looking to reconnect with the good old days. In his book, The Good Old Days, They Were Terrible, Otto Bettman points out the many ways Americans have idealized the past, often harkening back to a simpler time before industrialization, forgetting that disease, sickness, and even starvation were an all too common aspect of life during that time. The Amish, for example, are a Christian group in the US and Canada who refuse to use any modern technologies, preferring to live in a nostalgic past of their own creation. And while most people would agree that this fanatical clinging to the past is not desirable, nostalgia, in moderation, can be a healthy indulgence. It's a comforting lie we tell ourselves and willingly buy into to adapt to a globalized, ever-changing world. But how can our nostalgic reflections on the past contribute to a meaningful and productive present? We all appreciate nostalgia, but how can we give it meaning? And instead of perceiving nostalgia as a mere longing to return to the past, perhaps there are ways we can find it as a tool for growth and connection in the present. Nostalgia is especially common during major life transitions like moving to a new city or going off to university. It's as if our brains are trying to tell us to hold on to who we were while remembering who we are and discovering who we want to be. And in these uncertain times, it makes sense that we want to time travel to happier, safer, more familiar times. The past is certain, and everything that has happened has been dealt with. Now compare that to the future with its infinite possibilities and unknown risks. The past holds no such uncertainties because we have solid evidence that we've survived and made it through. And if we use this reassurance from the past to give us the courage to persevere in new and challenging situations. Similarly, a melody from a particular time in our life can take us back to a place that is uplifting. In moments of stress, you can simply play a song from the past, and just like that, you're reliving moments, feeling the same emotions that you felt back then. Now, this is also why there's a unique comfort in the favorite films that we watch again and again. While new movies may offer us thrills, they can also lead to disappointment as many won't live up to our expectations. Re-experiencing the context of when we first watched a film or listened to an old song allows us to reconnect with parts of ourselves that may have changed since the first time. Ultimately, nostalgia provides us with a sense of continuity and a unique opportunity to connect with our former selves. But as much as nostalgia may offer us some comfort, inspiration, or reflection in the present, it's not a place you want to spend the most of your time or energy. Despite the allure of happy feelings from the past, nostalgia is the ultimate irony. Like a mirage in the desert, the more you chase it, the more it fades away. And lingering nostalgia can cause a serious problem because it's the present that should be our primary concern. The past is just an illusion. As I stated earlier, when most people remember their own past or the past of their entire society, they often do so with childhood innocence, romantic naivete, and with rose-colored glasses, whitewashing away all the ugliness that was there all along. Whether as individuals or as a society, we need to accept the fact that we're trapped in the forward trajectory of time in which going back simply isn't an option. Only by focusing on the present and the future can any real progress be made. Which makes me realize that when I'm bored in my bedroom, missing that absolutely wonderful time I had in Switzerland, things weren't perfect either. I did have my lonely moments and failures and disappointments. I'm not saying that we should avoid enjoying nostalgia completely, but that we should learn to have a different relationship with it. It's by remembering the good and bad about Switzerland that helps remind me that even in the difficult times of the present, there are good things that I remember nostalgic about in the future. And after all, you don't want to become so nostalgic about the past that you miss out on appreciating the present. Because the present is real. The present is the only place where you have any real power. It's only in the present where you can make decisions which can have a real impact on creating the life you want to live as you craft your dreams into reality in the present. So sure, enjoy nostalgia, but don't get stuck in it. And don't idealize the past, but instead learn from it. And despite the seductive allure of nostalgia, don't forget that we should be really spending all your time and energy is in the present. This is what I came here to share with y'all tonight. So remember it nostalgically. Thank you.